Father, thank you for this day that you have given us. Thank you for the many blessings that you have given each of us in this city. Be with us as we move through tonight's agenda. Help us to make wise decisions for this city. Be with our residents and our staff. Be with those that are sick and hurting. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everyone for attending tonight. At this time, we will have citizen comment. There is a large crowd. If anybody wishes to speak, they need to register with Janine, put your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council. Is there anybody that needs?
Yes, sir. Mr. Olmsted was the first one.
Mr. Olmsted, give your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Al Olmsted, my address is 220 West 2nd Street in Littlefield. Mr. Guyman, on 2 previous occasions, I have warned you and your law firm through you against legal malpractice. All that has resulted from that, actually encouraged by your compatriot there who thinks it's funny to send me cartoons about conspiracy theorists wearing tinfoil hats and receiving messages from outer space aliens. All that's happened is you and your associates have escalated your blatant legal malpractice against the taxpayers of the city. I've had it with you, and one of the best things that's happened is by waiting, is that you have now given me what I need, documented proof that your law firm lies in court, in writing, to get what it wants. This Monday, the 29th of June, I am suing you personally, together with Mr. Wade and the Underwood Law Firm, for $250 million on a Texas tort for civil conspiracy. There will be a number of underlying complaints with that I'm not going to go into here now. But every member sitting on this council tonight, with the exception of Mr. Warren, but definitely including Mr. Eisenwine, will be named as your civil co-conspirators. I hope you've had a great laugh for yourself. You were smiling at me last time when I warned you. I've had all the jokes that I plan to take from Mr. Turpin. Let's see how you like it, because this is not going away. And for the benefit of the council members, you are not being sued as council members. You are being sued as private individuals. You are not entitled to have your legal fees paid by the city. And even though they may be initially, I'm not up on the law of that, but the city may be obligated to defend you initially. If you lose, the city can recover its money, but it's not going to that. I warned Mr. Slater Elza, the sign under you, a year and a half ago, that your law firm was going to run the city in bankruptcy, and that's what's going to happen next week.
Thank you. Janine, is there any more?
Mr. McCarty.
Mr. McCarty, you may approach the diocese. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Phelps W. McCarty. I live at 308 East 11th. I have no comment at this time. I'm here to observe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Heffington.
Mr. Hevington, please approach the name and please approach the diocese and give your name and address.
You did.
Brad.
Name and address, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Brad Heffington, 2530 S Highway 385, Littlefield, Texas. I want to come before the council and thank you for the work that y'all do for our community. I know that most of the time y'all just hear complaints, but I'd like to commend the mayor and city manager especially. City manager's been one of the best ones I've been able to work with in over 25 years, dealing with things like the city and youth baseball leagues and things like that and everything we're involved in, and I just want to encourage you to keep up your good work. It does trouble me when I hear things around town about maybe especially Lowe's being given preferential treatment and some things like that. They're one of our biggest employers on Hollywood. They're one of the biggest donors in town to everything that happens. I know these issues regard our airport, which is needed, but they're not the only one that use that. I know the dairy plant's wanting that for more and more stuff, and if we can get that grant that that helps pay for that would be great, but I would just encourage everyone, let's work together for Littlefield, not do things that divide Littlefield. And I know when I spoke here previously, I had a current city council member tell me I didn't have any business because I didn't live in the city limits, but I do own property in the city limits, so I would hope you would hear my suggestions as well. But I do thank you for your service, and just would like to encourage everyone to keep working together and work for Littlefield.
Thank you.
Mr. Broadhurst.
Lance, please approach the diocese, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Lance Broadhurst, 206 East 26. Guys, I want to thank you, just like Brad said, I want to thank you for your service. It's a thankless job. I serve on the school board, so I understand where you are, and I appreciate you guys so much. The other thing I kind of want to draw attention to is our bond indebtedness on our prison and kind of where that's gone, and you guys being the player and being fiscally responsible to take care of that. I think 5 or 6 years ago, that balance was like 9.5 million or so. Today, what I understand, it's like 2.7, 2.8 million. That didn't just happen, and I know you guys are to be commended for that. Most of the citizens don't really understand that. I understand that as a tax-paying citizen, what that does for us. So I appreciate that greatly, and understand that there's processes of being able to get that paid off pretty soon. So that's awesome. I kind of want to go to that point as well to say, let's stop the divisiveness, guys. We're citizens of Littlefield, just like you are citizens of Littlefield. I came to Littlefield over 40 years ago. I love Littlefield. I've got an option. I can stay here or I can leave. I choose to stay here. So let's work together. Yeah, this is about us. It's about our town. It's not just about a few people's town. One of the sayings my dad had as a kid, I never really understood it. As I became older, it made a whole lot of sense. And he said, neither man nor mule kick while pulling. When we're pulling our weight, guys, we don't have time to gripe and complain and worry about everybody else. I think that's including me. We just need to pull for the sake of Littlefield. Guys, in my opinion, things are going great. We've got things on the horizon with this new plant coming in. We've got a lot of positive things going. We got a lot of things to offer people for the city of Littlefield. Let's pull together as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Janine?
That's all.
Thank you all for your comments and for your attendance. This time we will move to number 5, introduction of new city employees. There's none today. Next, consider and approve minutes from the March 26th regular meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as read?
Make a motion. Second.
Motion's been made by Johnny, seconded by Michael. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Next, we will consider and approve monthly departmental reports, police department, fire department, EMS, codes enforcement, animal control, landfill, water, wastewater, streets and parks, municipal court, monthly financial reports, sales tax collections, property tax collections, LEDC A and B if boards met. If you have a question, please identify the page. If there are no questions, can we get a motion to approve the departmental reports as read?
I'll make a motion. I second.
Motion's been made by Michael, seconded by Renee. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Next, we'll have a presentation of our quarterly financial report. Andrew?
Sure. So to start the quarterly financial report, I usually say with the city of Littlefield, we don't currently have any investments, no CDs or anything. Most of our strategy right now has been to reduce debt instead of going to investment. So that this quarter is the second quarter for us. So we've hit 6 months out of our year. So we're at the 50% mark right now. So we can kind of start getting pretty decent analysis. What's happened this quarter, of course, is we did do a early bond payment on our 2016 bond, which is the big bond associated with the TCCC BCF facility. The early payment that we did was in the amount of $3.485 million. And alongside that, we did make our normal payment that was due, which was about $772,000. $530,000 of that was principal. So the principal amount that we cleared in February was, we were at $6.96 million in principal owed, and then today we're at $2.9 million or thereabouts principal owed. So we did clear about $4 million in principal off of that bond. And it, over the course, the bond would have ended in 2029. The bond now ends in 2024. If we make their normal payments, we saved, over the course of that time, we saved about $1.4 million in interest by doing that. So in my opinion, it's a really good thing for the city. It was a lot of work, but, you know, really positive thing for the city that we were able to save that money. We also, this quarter, we purchased 2 pieces of property out at the airport to, I guess, extend the amount of property that we owned around the airport. The 2 amounts for those 2 pieces of property, one was, I think, cost the city $172,000 around there, and the other one cost the city $89,000. So those were kind of property acquisitions that the city did this quarter. If we want to look at terms of how the city's doing in a cash flow perspective, it's probably doing pretty horrendous this year, but that's because we saved up a lot of money to make that early bond payment. If we simply took out the amount of money that we did, the $3.45 million that we did, if we excluded that, our cash flow would actually be pretty decent at this time. It's definitely in the positive. And, you know, also what happened this quarter is Webb and Wright came and gave us our audit exit, and we did really well in the audit. Webb and Wright said that, you know, everything was looked at good, our books were accurate, the books that my department keeps were all, you know, adequate and exemplary. So I'm proud of my department about that. And then just kind of to exit toward the end, I'd like to go over sort of our budget and where we are. So if everybody is on page 61 in your council packet, I'll just kind of briefly go over kind of where we're at and how that is from a historic point, kind of where the departments are at and if we're on track. I'll kind of go in detail over the revenues, and then I'll just hit the departments as a sort of overview. Our tax revenue is about where we expect it to be, about where it's been historically. I have a feeling that there is a little bit of an uptick in the amount of people that aren't paying their taxes. I mean, it could be not even a percentage point, but when you're talking about an amount that large, a percentage point can actually mean a lot of money. But other than that, it's pretty close to where we normally are at this time of year. Of course, it's like 90% used because we get most of our tax money in the last part of the year, our fiscal year, of course. The delinquent taxes vary a little bit, but they're within, you know, what we predict them to be. Penalties and interest are associated with that too, and they're on track, a little bit up from last year. Going into our franchises, which is money we collect from like utility companies that run in the area. Our electric franchise is a little down compared to like last year. It's still not very far off the mark, but it is a little bit down. Our telephone cable franchise is actually way down from last year, and it's due to MTS having paid us last year, and this year we haven't received anything from them. So that's why there's such a big discrepancy between this year and last year on our telephone cable. Moving on, gas franchise, it's a little bit down, still pretty close to what we expect, but it is a little bit down. Sales tax is up. It's on track with what we expect to bring in. It's been hitting record sales tax numbers of previous months. I will say this month in April, even though I'm kind of reviewing March and April, I did see for the first time where we didn't actually beat out our last year number. So there's a bit of a cool off on our sales tax in April. It could just be a variation. There's no, you know, it's been going up and up and we've been hitting records, and this is just the first time I've seen it, but it is something to note. Hotel motel taxes is way down from last year. I went and actually looked at this when I was reviewing this, and we haven't had any hotel motel taxes turned in by Best Western this year, which is atypical, I would say, for sure. We got like food and beverage permits and plumbing permits and everything. Most of the permits that we'll see this year, they're all up from last year. Our code enforcement department's doing a good job knocking stuff out, so that's kind of on an upward trend on all of our permits. Municipal courts, there's a lot of different fees associated with municipal court. Most of those are pretty close to where they were last year. They're gonna be a little bit lower than what I saw last year at this point in time. But there is a variation in how, it's not a money-making thing. It's just kind of what's being put through the system. Skipping down, we've probably got some more admin fee, or municipal court fees and electrical permits, and I separated out miscellaneous permits this year. You'll notice that's usually 15,000 or more, and of course the 15,000 there is actually a permit associated with gambling machines or such, and so that's where that goes. Dog pound fees are also up. They're dog licensing enforcement, once again, doing a pretty decent job. They've rose that line item heavily compared to previous years. So there's more dogs being caught, I suppose, and fees being paid for returned dogs. It's kind of hard to gauge, but it's a substantial increase, so that's pretty neat. Sell a property at 5360. We sold a track loader this year, and that's going to be the majority of that. We sold a couple other small items alongside it, but the big amount of that's going to be the track loader. Vector control and sanitation collection are things that we bill out on people's water bill when they get it in. That's actually part of the revenue that's on that, and they're on track, pretty similar to what we had last year, almost exactly. Maybe just a slight bit less, but that's just would mean that we have like a few less accounts that we're billing for. Fire service is a little down compared to last year. Ambulance fees are on track with last year, so the ambulance stuff is pretty similar to how it was last year at this time. What else we have? Landfill operations is heavily down. I attribute that to last year. We were kind of coming off of what had been kind of a hailstorm event, and there was a lot of people dumping shingles at that time last year, and this year not so much. So that's lower than it was last year at this time, but still, and it's a little low for the year in my opinion. But let's see, keep going down. We got campground donations is lower than it was last year. I think last year there was just more people in the campground. And anything we don't use airport anymore. That'll be it for that page. Skipping over to the next page. We also have a new one from last year, which is the Chamber of Commerce RV Park, which is the money that the city gets in conjunction with the chamber operating their side of the RV. And that's about it for the general fund revenues. So all in all, in my opinion, they're pretty good and track with what we expected, what the budget that we passed for this year. It's all lining up pretty well. Our overall is 58%, which is great. At the 50% mark, we want to see that a little bit higher at this point. Moving on to the expenses, so the expenses associated with the departments in the general fund. We have legislative, it's fine, 33%. We're really looking to see if there's anything that's really bumping the 50% mark at this point. Administration at 53%, that's probably fine. Police at 51%, they're kind of up, but they're still kind of in line with where we were at. Fire department at 43%, so it's even low. Refuse at 48%, which is on track. Shared cost, which is probably one of the most concerning departments I have at this point. It really should be lower than the 61% that it's at. Looking at it on a detail level, that's majorly due to the legal expenses exceeding what we predicted for this year. I think we budgeted $28,000 for them, and at this point in time, about 50% through the year, they're at $46,000. So it's about 165% over of what we expected, and we're only 50% of the way through the year. So that's primarily the thing that's causing that department to be a little higher than what we hoped for at this time. Fleet services at 39%, it's actually low. There's been some personnel changes in there that caused that. EMS is at 41%, so they're doing great. Dispatch at 50%, they're on track. LADCA is kind of just they reimburse us anything that's spent out of that account, so that's fine. Licensing enforcement at 44%, they're on track. Emergency management at 20%, they're on track. Residential collection, you're gonna see at 75%. They do have a couple of concerning line items in the detail. Their overtime's probably busted at this point, and their repair and maintenance is a little bit high. But what's actually causing that to go to 75% is the fact that we pay $150,000 note that's associated with the dumpsters and the garbage truck on that account. That's been paid already, so it kind of bumps that account up over the 50% mark because we paid 100% of that $150,000, at this time already. And to a fair comparison, last year at this time, they were actually further along. They'd actually spent more money last year at this time, although there was some things associated with that, like we had bought a trash truck at the time last year. Public Works is at 32%, so they're a little low, but perfectly fine. Municipal Court, 45%, they're right on track. Switching to the O2 fund, to look at our revenue coming from the O2 fund. Our water revenues, right on track with what we expect it to be, so even a little, tiny bit more over where we were last year at this time, so it's doing good. Disconnection charges are actually lower over last year. It's mainly, I would surmise that less people are not paying their water bill, so we're not charging them the $50 processing fee that we charge if you don't pay by the 19th. Interest is up, but it's not very much money. Miscellaneous is high, and I can't remember, I didn't even look up miscellaneous. Well, that would be bulk water sales, so if somebody's doing construction in town and comes and gets a hydrant meter, that's where that money goes. So that's probably what that is for the most part. I mean, we've already hit 100% of what we estimated, so it's high, and it's above where we were last year at this time. Penalties are on track and about where we were last year at this time, even a little higher, so they're coming along where we expected it to be. So our transfer charges, 10-day accounts, the kind of the smaller stuff. Our sewer is right on track with where we expect it to be and where we predicted it would be. And tapping charges are another small account that's exceeded already what we predicted. Going to the actual departments in the water fund, so we have the 3 departments, utility billing. We're a little high where we were compared to last year, but we are on track. It is at 55%, but we pay most of our fees associated with our computer system, which are probably almost $30,000 a year. We've already paid that this year, so it causes us to bump up a little bit over 50% at this point, but we're actually on track with where we should be. Wastewater is at 62%. In my opinion, that's a little high from where it should be. There are some reasons why it might be over 50%. We pay our fees and our consultants early in the year, and there's no money paid the last half of the year, but that's usually about $10,000. I would say there's a couple small detailed line items. Oh, and then we also pay a vehicle payment out of that for $14,000 that would bump that a little high. It's still probably a little high, but they can probably take it back down before the end of the year. Water production's at 46.9%, so it's right on track with where we expect it to be. And you see 609 refuse there. That's actually where we put interest associated with debt that's inside the water department. We actually have to categorize our interest separately in the water department, so that's where we put that for auditing purposes at the end. So there's no concern we had there. And the 690 is just where we budget $400,000 that we will transfer into the general fund. If you look at the general fund revenue, there will be a transferring item waiting for that $400,000. But that's just the amount of money that we usually pay to the general fund for helping in operations in the water fund, even it out a little bit. Other than that, I have the auxiliary funds on here. There's really nothing too exciting on it. You have 04, which is our economic development corporations. The weirdest thing about that is that if you look at the revenue, the 5,000 for A and the revenue 5051 for B, they don't match, even though they should. That's simply because my department doesn't reconcile LADCA as fast as it does B, because we wait for LADCA to turn in their books to the city before we actually input it into our system. So I did check that today, and they have been reconciled, and they do match, so there's no concern there. And then if you look at the expenses on there, like 602, that's actually LADCB, 601 is A, and then there's a 690, which is a transfer account, which that's also associated with B. So you can see where B pays the city $25,000 for management, and then it pays, then it transferred $250,000 to the debt for the TCCC BCF. 08, you can see kind of the revenue that's associated with tax. There's a portion of our property taxes that go directly into the INS fund, sort of to pay for the facility, and then also we get the rent from the facility, which is, it looks a little low right there, but I think that's because they had delayed in payment to us. We've since gotten that payment. I checked it. It's totally on track with what we expected for the year, maybe even a little higher. So that's good. And then you can actually see an operating transfer in where LADCB actually transferred that $250,000 there at the bottom at that 5950. So that's where that 04 $250,000 transfer out gets transferred in. Police, we got the Fund 15, which is a seized property fund, and there's not really much that happens with that. The Parks and Recreation Fund, you can see how much park donations we've taken for the year there. The grant fund, which is just associated with grants and stuff. We also put the ambulance subsidy in there that you can see. The blight elimination fund, sold the property for $1,200, and then we used $803 for demolition or somewhere along the lines, probably boarding up a house. And then you have the airport fund down there, which is a newer fund where we extracted the airport department and put it into its own fund. And you can see the revenue associated with that, the hangar leases, and miscellaneous usually associated with like the RVs, and then the expenses on the next page. And you'll see the expenses are like $285. That includes those two amounts that I gave you at the start where we purchased the property for $172 and $89. And that's where that is currently expensed as a capital expense. I'll wait for the auditors to give me direction. That'll probably go into a land asset, and it won't be categorized as expense, or it'll turn into a land asset when the auditors do that. So that's sort of a good, solid overview of where all the departments at, where all the budget's at. I think it's doing really good. I think the departments have done, department heads have done a really good job keeping all their departments in check and doing the best with what they've got, and all within the resources that we allot them. So I'm real impressed with the department heads on all that, and it makes my job easier when they do such a good job. But if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything, and if not, we can move on.
Anybody have any questions for Andrew? If none, there's no action on this item. Next, we'll consider and approve an amendment. Make sure I'm on that. Next, we'll consider and approve amendment for LADCA 2018-2019 fiscal year budget. Mitch?
Mayor, you have a resolution here. I think you've got some members of the board here. Resolution just basically recommends budget amendment, and you've got a little spreadsheet in there that shows, this is actually a 6-month budget amendment, and we've only got 4 months left in the, or actually 5, but by the time this would kick in, it'd be 4 months left. So that spreadsheet shows that yellow column is the change in that would be required to do this personnel amendment that is included in the packet here. Pat, did y'all want to say anything?
Can you give a rundown to the council of what's going on, the reason for this?
Yeah, this is, of course, the city council has the oversight of the the ADCA Corporation. And it's been discussed a while, and the board at the last meeting interviewed a candidate for Economic Development Corporation. And this would be in addition to the what we have now, Jim. And in this resolution, it's got the creation of that position and a budget, a recommended budget. And the city council's, by the bylaws, the city's oversight of this is one of the things the city controls is the budget. So in improving this budget amendment, you'd be approving this action that the Economic Development Corporation has taken.
Is there any questions or discussion? I would set in on the LEDCA meeting when they interviewed this gentleman, and he's a former SPAG employee. We're getting him from South Plains Association of Governments. He has had economic development experience. That's currently what his role is with SPAG, is economic development. He had a big hand in some of the grant works with Continental Dairies out here on redoing that highway or that county road with the county. Really excited about this guy. He's a go-getter, has GIS, which is mapping experience, which is a really phenomenal skill that it's very uncommon to find an economic development person that also can do GIS work, and so he'll be able to put together some really good maps and presentations for people to go recruit businesses and new businesses to town. So really, really exciting hire there that the board has recommended.
And retain business too.
And retain business too. Correct. So, is there any questions or discussion? If none, can we get a motion to approve this budget amendment?
I'll make a motion, we approve this second amendment.
Motion's been made by Michael, seconded by Johnny. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Next, we'll have a mayor proclamation for Motorcycle Awareness Month, and I'll read this proclamation. Proclamation of the City of Littlefield. Whereas motorcycle riding is a popular form of transportation for millions of people across the state and nation, and whereas Texas has over 440,000 registered motorcycles and over 300 individuals who have a valid motorcycle endorsement. And whereas the safe operation of motorcycles requires the use of special skills developed through a combination of training and experience, the use of good judgment and thorough knowledge of traffic laws and licensing regulations. And whereas the Motorcycle Awareness and You campaign is intended to prevent accidents, injuries, and fatalities associated with motorcycling by encouraging motorcycle operations to participate in rider education programs, wear the proper apparel, and operate their vehicles defensively according to the rules of the road. And whereas Motorcycle Awareness and You campaign is intended to heighten the awareness and encourage other motor vehicle operators to share the roadways and be cautious and observe motorcycles, especially during seasonal return of motorcyclists to streets and highways of Texas. Now therefore, I, Eric Turpin, Mayor, do hereby proclaim May 2019 as Motorcycle Awareness Month. We have some motorcycle guys with us today. If you'd like me to take a picture for the paper's not here, but take a picture. And
Let's get everybody in there.
if the council wants to step up front and get a picture for these guys.
All right, got three of them.
Thank y'all guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Be safe. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you.
With that proclamation, please do remember, spring and summertime is upon us, and there's more and more motorcycles going to be out. And please be aware of them as they're out riding and enjoying the roadways that they share with cars. Next, we will consider and approve tax deeds for trust properties in the city of Littlefield from Texas Community Group. Property ID 18510 at 1020 West 2nd Street. Property ID 19329 at 289 North Austin Avenue. Property 41727 at 1016 West 2nd Street. Property ID 19956 at 401 West 4th Street. And property ID 20556 at 303 Southwest Side Avenue. The property deeds and the description are from, in the packet starting on page 79. You'll see there is a property selling for $380. There's variations of lots and houses here, but if you have any questions or concerns, let us know. If not, these properties will be sold to these individuals, and the money put in the blight and elimination fund that will be used in return to tear down more dilapidated structures, which you have 10 on the books.
Got 10, just waiting for the redemption date to expire in May, first of May.
If there are no concerns or questions on these, can we get a motion to approve these 5 tax deeds?
Make a motion to approve these 5 tax deeds.
Motion's been made by Johnny, seconded by Renee, that we approve the tax deeds. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Next, we'll have an executive session regarding land lease under Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with an attorney, and 551.072, deliberations about real property. If the city council and the attorney and the city manager will join us, we'll be back shortly.
6.